Max, it has dawned on me that the roaring 20s are back. Yes, history is actually seemingly repeating itself, in fact, not just rhyming. So, incomes are up 21% since last March and up 33% from 2019. Consumer spending, highest ever. Stock markets, all-time highs. And let's first look at Charlie Munger. He's a partner with Warren Buffett over at Berkshire Hathaway, and of course, is from the 1920s. He was born in 1924, so he will remember as a little child, a baby flapper, that the roaring 20s. Charlie Munger on Bitcoin today. Quote, I should say modestly that I think the whole damn development is disgusting and contrary to the interests of civilization. He owns banks that launder billions per year and have been charged criminally. Give me a break, says Anthony Pompliano.
Right. Pomp makes a good observation there. 75% of the Berkshire Hathaway portfolio, when you break it down, is banks. And the banks are the first in line from the central banks to get all the bailout money. Remember, Berkshire Hathaway has been bailed out twice. Without those bailouts, they would have been bankrupt long ago. They're underperforming even with the bailouts. They're still underperforming the S&P and NASDAQ for more than 10 years. These guys are they're bums. They're charity cases, right? So, and you say income is up 30%. To be clear, that's not wage, that's income. So it's people getting minimum wage plus government transfer payments that are being stuffed into their mailboxes. Well, Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, their income is up by billions because instead of getting $1,800 or $2,000 from the government, they get 10, 15, 20 billion dollars from the government. But they're no different because they've never invented anything. They've never built anything. They just sit in their chair down Omaha, Nebraska, and wait for the government to send them money. And that's all they do. And they're bums and they're parasites.
The thing is, his statement does expose, first of all, he said, Bitcoin, he hates the success of Bitcoin. And what the success of Bitcoin does is expose the entirety of the lie of the financial system of which he has benefited enormously. But it also shows you that for all their smarts and all their value investing and looking, digging into the books and examining the books of these companies and meeting the CEOs and doing all the due diligence, that's a waste of time and money in a roaring 20s when money is being thrown out the door like Spanky back in the 20s and the Little Rascals throwing money out the window. Well, that's what the government is doing. And so you don't need to be any smarter than a monkey. And some people say Charlie Munger kind of looks like one, but the fact is anybody can make money. And that is shown as you mentioned, Warren Buffett buys more of his new favorite stock, Berkshire Hathaway, but is a net seller on market as S&P 500 set record highs and the Buffett indicator raises the alarm. Total U.S. market cap is now equal to 226% of U.S. GDP, way above the 100% that Buffett sets as his bubble threshold. So over twice as high. Anybody who bet on the bubble is winning. Of course, those value investors are the sort that will get out of the market thinking, oh, this is a bubble. He would have got out at 100%, started scaling out, and it's now doubled since then. But this is the roaring 20s.
Right. Well, this is where it gets pernicious and ugly in the fiat money world, with Munger and Buffett, because they use the billions that the government gives them to lobby the government to do things like repeal Glass-Steagall under the Clinton administration, or to get rid of the laws that prevented companies from buying back their own stock, which is what happened under Reagan, because it's patently market manipulation and stock manipulation to buy back your own stock. And when you can do that with money that the government's giving you for free or at a 0% interest rate, you're clearly in a predatory position that's bankrupting large swathes of the economy and causing unemployment and causing these deaths of despair. The number of opiate overdose deaths last year up by 20,000 to 90,000. Thank you, Charlie, and thank you, Warren.
obviously they have like more than $150 billion just sitting there like a melting ice cube in their treasury, just sitting there doing nothing, because they look around and they see nothing worth investing in. But this is at the end of the past 20 years since they did lobby for the repeal of Glass-Steagall, the hollowing out of the U.S. economy. And in fact, he also mentioned at this point, by the way, at the shareholder meeting this past weekend, that Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan, and some others were going to take on the healthcare racket in America. And he said something along the lines of like, well, this racket is bigger than us, right? It's 17% of the US GDP. And these powerful multi-billionaires running the financial sector couldn't make inroads into it because of the predatory, those sort of moats that they set up around their racket.